with someone that didn't stick like you thought it would. Every person in this room has been in different types of relationships, not just romantic. Given time, those bonds will either begin to deteriorate slowly or completely fall apart. I myself have had many friendships fall through and links severed by their own choices. Although I have been on the other end of ending those connections with other people I used to trust. In order to fully describe the communication concept, there must be a reliable model, reasons why other scholars support it, and why I support it. To start off, the relational dissolution concept is intentionally made to describe the process of falling out with a friend, family member, or significant other. The model consists of 4 parts: the intrapsychic, dyadic, social, and grave dressing phases. The first intrapsychic phase of this process involves the individual brooding on the fact that the relationship is not satisfactory in some way from his or her perspective. The dyadic phase emerges when the couple is confronted with the dissatisfaction experienced by one or both partners, such as the dyad needs to discuss and evaluate it. The next phase, the social phase, involves the social networks in which the dyad is necessarily embedded in those other people whose lives intertwine with the couple or one of its members. Last comes the grave dressing phase. An important and under-recognized feature of the breakup of relationships is the need to publish a record of the relationship and its death. Steve Duck makes his case that this happens over time and that people will gradually get to the point into their relationships. He argued that relational dissolution is a process that occurs over time and that although relationships differ, individuals tend to move through 4 phases or stages. Duck's model attempted to address some of the weaknesses of earlier models and of other relational dissolution work by emphasizing that the processual elements fall into phases that which relational partners pass in enacting a dissolution. Secondly, I support this concept because I believe that it is very important as a part of the communication world with the rest of us. I believe that relationships aren't one single thing. I think that they can constantly change as time goes on and as a relationship continues to grow. Once formed, relationships do not simply exist or continue at any given level. Instead, they are always changing and evolving. No relationship in your life will or should stay the same as time goes on. One of the greatest gifts in life is that we continue to grow and evolve as the years go by. The concept affects everyone in the world, and I have to admit that it's fascinating to realize that. The Date Report gives shocking numbers of how many romantic relationships end. In a recent lecture, marriage expert Helen Chen assigned a number of this to when she asserted that 85% of relationships end in a breakup. They also describe what these numbers are when interpreting the divorce, seeing that only the elite few relationships in the marriage and half of marriages end in divorce. Lastly, this theory is supported by many communicational scholars in this field. Scholars look further into why these breakups happen. More recently, scholars have chosen to examine the long-term processes of separating and the ways in which third parties, children, relatives, and friends inflect the whole process. These models of dissolution recognize that a relationship always takes time within a set of other relationships. Members of any given couple know other people, have their own relatives and friends, and are likely to discuss their relationship problems and successes with these people. Dissolution is cared for as a timed event, but anything can happen in a spur-of-the-moment kind of breakups. Although scholars recognize that such instant breakups do, of course, occur as a result of some mischance, the approach here is to treat dissolution as involving strategies and choices between them. To conclude, relational dissolution was created to show what happens when a bond with somebody else in your life breaks. People everywhere ultimately go through the 4 phases formulated by Steve Duck in his scholarly approved model. Since relationships constantly change, it should be seen that once a couple of friends, lovers, or family members go through relational dissolution, that these problems should develop.